Welcome to another episode of the Above the Business podcast. My name is Bradley Hamner, your host. On today's episode, we have Ryan Wimpey. He's the visionary founder of Tip Top K9 Dog Training. And in this episode, we do get into a little bit of the dog training aspect of it, but the center of our conversation is really around the business side of it. And so whether you have a desire to want to franchise the business or even want to potentially purchase a franchise business, or maybe you just want to think about your business as a franchise and have a franchise mindset. I think you're going to pick up some things from someone who has actually been able to do this to grow it and expand to across 19 locations. We dive into what are the specific things that they've been able to do to grow that business and continue to grow that business to 100 plus locations over time. Without further ado, here's my conversation with Ryan Wimpey. Ryan, welcome to the Above the Business podcast.
Thank you for having me. I'm glad to be here.
Pumped to have you. Let to start with background and origin story. I think it's fascinating how people kind of got to where they are today. So why don't you take us back and bring us to present day?
Yeah. So back in the day, almost like 20 years ago, I got a dog. I was in college, got a dog off the side of the road. His name was Curley. He was a little Schnauzer Terrier mix and had two different types of hair, and one ear went up, one went down. And he was a rascal, man. He had all these behavioral issues. You open the front door, he'd run away. That's probably why he was a stray. Like run away, like you chase him for hours. He'd pull on the leash and choke himself nonstop, bark at people. He had aggression, he had anxiety and potty training issues. And it just got me really obsessed with dog training, reading everything, watching everything, traveling hours to meet with trainers to try to fix these behavioral issues because it really impacted my relationships with people, right? Roommates, friends, etc., neighbors. So, got me obsessed with dog training. My family's been, my dad and grandpa, they ran a construction supply business for over 50 years. My aunts and uncles, they've run franchises. Everyone in my family has been pretty entrepreneurial. And so I worked for some other people for a while. And then as a dog trainer, and 2007, 8, 9, and in 2010, opened up Tip Top K9. So it's a dog training company. We're headquartered out of Tulsa, Oklahoma. And so what I found is that there's a lot of different ways to train a dog. If you ever go on YouTube and you search dog training, you're going to find, hey, no one actually says the same thing. They all have their own different ideas. They all, some crazy, some make sense, but they don't work, etc. And so basically there's two different ways most people train a dog: through operant conditioning. You have reward-based training or punishment-based training or negative reinforcement, right? So basically the carrot or the stick, so to speak. That's how most people train dogs. If you have a dog, though, with anxiety and aggression, if you put too much pressure on them, they freak out and they bite you, right? Or it impacts the relationship. It's very challenging. And so I got into classical conditioning based training, which now we train with the training cards. Classical conditioning. We don't reward the dogs. We don't punish the dogs. We condition a response, and that's what we transfer to the clients. And over the last since 2010 we started. We've been franchising since 2009. So it took me about 9-10 years to really refine a system, really outline it. So right now we have 19 locations and 19 franchises and 2 more in the works in a streamlined dog training system based off classical conditioning.
So before you came on, you probably didn't know too much of the things that I really love. And so one of the reasons I wanted to have you on is because I think it's valuable for people whenever they're thinking about their own business, depending on the industry that they're in. There's some things that we can really learn from franchise businesses. I mean, by its nature, if I buy into your franchise, I'm buying a proven system. I mean, I think you said 19, like people have
Yeah.
bought
Yeah.
into the fact that sure, there's branding elements to it and there's assets with that, but there's also like a proven way to do things. And I think that that's a big reason why I think franchises have had such a low failure rate in comparison to other small businesses. Like I think the 5-year failure rate of franchises is 15%,
Right.
whereas most businesses is 50%. So
Right.
statistically, that's a huge difference. Can you speak to that specifically about before, not where it is maybe now,
Yeah.
but when you were building the company initially and it was the initial prototype, so to speak,
Right.
what are some of the actual things that you did to then be able to say, you know what, we have a repeatable system here that
Yeah.
we could go and be able to sell and have other people to open up a second, a third, a fourth, so on and so forth?
Yeah. So basically, early on, whether you franchise or whether you have multiple corporate stores, I think the process is literally identically the same. You're going through and documenting and checklisting everything,
Hmm.
like every little thing. Um, I mean, the opening closing checklist, like we're like documenting how you clean a kennel, right? Because if we hire someone to take care of dogs, I would like them to be able to clean up a kennel and, learn that in half a day, right? That
Sure.
able to do that quickly. Um, but even our dog training. So, when I started in 2008, basically everything's this word of mouth tribal knowledge thing. Well, now just one of our manuals is almost 100 pages,
Hmm.
right? Our sales training is like 50, 60 pages along with handouts. Like everything is so drilled down. There's so much information, steps, checklists, documents on everything. Just everything's documented. So in the beginning, I may go to someone's house, and if they have, say, sometimes I would start with come, making the dog come off leash. Sometimes I'd start with loose leash walking. Sometimes doggy time out. It was kind of a little bit different every time, a little different client experience, different documents for them. Also, on top of documenting everything and making an order for everything, um, we also got as many handouts as possible so people don't have to memorize.
Hmm.
For a consulting process or sales process, any of the training processes, we want them to have as many visuals as possible because memorization takes time. So if we want to speed up how quickly we can train people, the more documents and the more documented methods we have, the easier. So like my first employee I trained in 2010, it took me about 6 months to train him. And now we train people in like 6 weeks, like regularly, clockwork. Not even me. My guys will train them in 6 weeks. But that's because they're using the same documented system that I started. They're not making up how they train each person, if that makes sense.
It makes sense. It does. Now, um, I mean, in my own journey, I was in the first time, it wasn't the first time I heard it. I mean, I'd heard systems and processes for a long time, right? And, but I never actually ended up basically doing it until I finally started to do it. What have you been able to do in a way that through the documentation, it actually gets trained using it so that somebody doesn't, a lot of our clients have had the experience, Ryan, to where they have documented something. They did all this work, they put it together, and then nobody ever looks at the doggone thing. So, no pun intended with that one. But how have you been able to get it to where people actually use
Yeah,
the thing that you've built?
that's good. So when it was just words, I think it's harder if there's not like pictures, diagrams, etc. You have to remember like people are humans and they're going to do whatever's the easiest for them. So if I tell my managers or I tell a trainer, hey, I used to train someone in 6 months. Now I do it this way. And I use all these documents. And because I do A, B, C, one, two, three, someone gets trained 10 times faster. That's why I want you to train this way. And I say, hey, you won't have to train your person as long if you do this. And here's all the benefits. If I explain all the benefits and the consequences of not doing it, and I make it colorful and easy to use, and then that's also how I train them. And then I shadow my people training the next people, etc. It goes a little better. So we just had a train the trainer event where we had 10 of our 19 locations come in. Some people were there to there were newer trainers for continuing education, and some people were the managers, and they're actually wanting to watch people be trained.
Hmm.
The same way I train my guys, same way I want them to train. We're using the manuals, the posters, the handouts, and we're going through those, showing them how to use it. But if it's not easy, like if I gave if I gave you a here's 83 paragraphs on how to post on TikTok, you're probably not going to read it.
True.
Let's be real.
Yeah. How do you what do you think that for either a new business owner or for the majority of our listening audience, they're already a business owner.
Right.
Why is franchising an attractive business to consider as maybe a second business for someone?
Yeah, I think for the person that's already a business owner, they're actually going to be even more attracted because they know how hard the startup phase is.
Hmm.
Like they've already gone through that pain. Like when I started up, and there's no systems and processes, there's no plans, there's no marketing plans, HR documents, etc. If someone was like, hey, for 6% you can call me, I'll write out everything for you, I'll give you your marketing strategies, I'll help you with HR, I would probably been like, that sounds like a great deal. And that's kind of what franchising is. It's just that coach, that mentor with 15 years of experience that's already gone through all the hard issues, and they're giving you all of their trade secrets. A lot of our people, if they're hardworking people, they can ramp up and get the same success that took me 8 or 10 years, and they can have that in 2 or 3 because the processes are already there. So I
Hmm.
think the franchise model appeals almost more towards someone who's, hey, they work their own business, and they're not on that business yet. They're actually, they're in the business. So if they're working 60, 70 hours a week, still trying to figure out everything, I think franchising appeals even more to that person.
Do you, how do you view somebody? Let's say I contacted you and I said, "Hey, I'm really interested in this. I love dogs, um, and yeah, I want to be a part of it, right? I mean, I want this to be a part of my portfolio." How do you feel that the owner, franchise owner, what do you feel like that their role is in in that organization? Like, how do you structure what you believe that their role is, maybe in the beginning, and then even as it begins to grow?
Yeah, it's a good question. So we're a little different in the fact that we don't really advertise absentee model. We're really looking more for a owner operator and just explain to them off of the bat, hey, you're going to be um, in operations to begin with, and then you're going to transition from owner operator to manager to more of that actual location role, where you could either just be the location owner working whatever hours you decide to work, or at that point then you could open an additional 1 or 2 units, etc. But most of our people, we start them out because it's more of a trade, so people are coming for actually 6 weeks of training. So with our franchise model, we do very in-depth training. So that normally needs to be with the owner. So the owner, it could be a few months, 6 months, 2 years, whatever. And it also depends on if they have more lifestyle goals, they want, a lot more freedom, or they have income goals and how many hours they're kind of putting in.
Transition a little bit. What have you learned about business and creating a franchise model instead of the franchise? Okay, I get this wrong. Franchisee, franchisor. I guess you're the franchisor. What have you learned about being the franchisor about business?
I mean, it's different than the corporate stores for sure, right? So one thing that I realized is part of who appeals to that franchise, part of what appeals to a potential franchisee is having more support. And because of what people have requested, we just kept adding more. So when we launched our first two, we gave them, hey, here's your documents, here's your pricing sheets, your one sheets, your business cards, your flyers to drop off at vets and groomers, etc. And here's their logos for the shirts, hats, boom, 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 everything in nice documents, everything with Dropbox linked, itemized. And there was printing issues. There was issues with the embroidery people, the screen printers, and they're calling. And so we're like, okay, well, we actually started doing we started up a store, started doing all the shirts, all the flyers, just deep discounting everything, and then wholesaling it to them, um, because they're spending so much time on it instead of their actual core activity, dog training, generating income. And so we kind of took that. We do the call center now. We do billing for them. We have the store. We source the marketing companies. Because I think what I learned specifically is the people that are really interested in that model, they want a model where their hard work equals money in the bank, and they don't have to be the business guru,
Mm,
right?
mm.
Because we're talking about like if you're going to buy a chain of bagel franchises, or 5 or 6 Jimmy Johns on a multi-unit or something like that, it's a different than, hey, I'm buying a $50,000 tip top K9. It's a different model for a different person. So the person that's like, hey, uh, you know, that sounds attractive. I could do that, and I could potentially get outside of my business or work multiple units. But that person is working somewhere, they're making, 40 to 120 grand a year, probably. Right. And then have the freedom to be their own boss. That person, for our specific model, they want more back end support, and they want to really focus on doing the work, and they
Yeah.
don't want to do as much of that back office stuff. That's kind of the biggest thing we found, and what we thought was a lot of support wasn't, and we just kept adding.
You know, I think it's a good example that the technical skills that you need to do the job in the industry that you're in is different than the business skills and tools of what it takes to run the business. I mean, obviously, uh, that's Gerber talks about that a little bit in E-Myth as well. That there's two different skill sets, and to your point, like some people are like, I don't want to be the business guru, but depending on what industry you're in, unless you're in a franchise, like well, you're the business owner, you have to be, and I think that's you don't really have much of a choice because in entrepreneurship, nobody's coming to save you, right?
No,
But at the same time, it's kind of what we signed up for to be an entrepreneur. A lot of people want
right.
freedom and flexibility and the income potential that comes along with it. How did you decide to go the franchise route versus having, maybe just yourself? Like, what was that thought process of doing that versus maybe just owning, I don't know, 150 locations that are corporate owned?
Yeah. So part of it is, if I want someone, if I have somebody and they have a high skill set in a technical trade, like, dog training, it's somewhat technical. There's nuance to it, right? And if I have someone with a high skill set, well, the trend is more that someone eventually they go, hey, so like if one of my guys at corporate, if they sell 80 grand of dog training in a month, they go, huh, I sold 80 grand in dog training. Maybe I should do this on my own. Right. And they start to get that entrepreneurial seizure just
Mm,
because they see that dollar bills. Um, and so if I do those corporate stores, the people with the higher skill set, they almost are going to need some equity, right? To really keep them long term, I'm going to have to give them some equity. And if I'm going to be give them equity and partner with them in some way, franchising just made more sense for us. I think we could have been successful either way. One partly was a lifestyle decision on us. We were traveling for executive coaching 2 hours once a week to Oklahoma City, and we go, hey, if we have corporate stores, we're gonna be flying out to those stores all the time, right? That's just how it rolls.
mm.
Or we have someone. But for us, I think part of it was just maybe a little bit of the travel, but a lot of it was just, hey, if I really want to lock down high skilled technical people, you give them equity. And I think franchising makes the most sense because they're the most invested if they're the full equity partner, right?
That makes sense.
That's kind of how we did it, because half our locations are our employees or clients that as soon as we started doing it, I think it's 12 out of the 19 or we're either employees or clients currently.
Hmm. That makes sense.
Yeah. So otherwise I would have just trained my competition, right? There's a lot of people do.
You mentioned something that I'm curious about, which is, you traveled for executive coaching, so it sounds like obviously you've really valued your own personal and professional development. Can you maybe speak to the importance that making that investment yourself in a coach or a program or something like that has meant to you?
Yeah, we have gone. So my wife and I have gone from coach to coach to coach, and I think that's what everyone who succeeds at some point they're reaching out to somebody for coaching. Whether it's we did sales coaching, we did management help, executive coaching. You know, when people are like, hey, you know what, I'm gonna do it all, and they don't know it all, and someone else has 20 years experience building sales teams,
Mm,
someone else that they've been managing people at a high level for 25 years. You're not gonna Do I want to wait 25 years to get that experience? No, absolutely not. I will say the one caveat is I think we should have moved quicker through our coaches. So now we still reach out, we still are coaching. Right now we're coaching with a lady, started a franchise. She ran it for 20 years, went to 150 locations, and then had to exit. Right? She's our current coach. Well, we keep leveling up our coaches, right? And reaching out to another guy. He's a franchise consultant. He's exceptionally expensive. He charges $5,000 for 90-minute sessions, right? Pretty expensive. Um, but if someone's been in the industry for 30 years and they have that knowledge that other people don't have, like, I don't want to wait 30 years to get that. I can part with $5,000 a lot easier than I can part with 30 years experience,
mm,
right? It makes sense. I'm not,
yeah.
you can't have, you got to get rid of that ego. Like, hey, I'll just figure it out. That's not going to happen.
Yeah. I think I don't know where to attribute this to, but you're going to learn it one way or the other. You're either going to learn it through taking time or you're going to invest the money to get the learning from someone else. Yeah, I totally agree with that. That's why I asked that question. Ryan, eh, where is Tip Top going for you? Like maybe I don't know if you want to let us big time under the hood, but
Sure.
what's the big vision of kind of where you're wanting to take, that this business for you?
Yeah. So right now we're at 19 locations. We have a few more planned, or already in the works, just not currently open. So we're looking in the next few years to double, to go to 40, which is very doable. A lot of that growth will be internal. So about a third of it will be from locations opening a second or third. We already have, so four owners own two, one owner owns three. So multiple people already own multiple locations. We're trying to grow that way. It's very easy to manage. The culture stays very good. But yeah, right now, so 40 in the next 2.5 years, and then slow growth to 100, because we support all of our locations heavily with call center, marketing, product support, and training support and conferences.
Hmm.
We are not looking for that explosive growth. Uh, some of the franchise world does have that super explosive growth, and then corporate has a problem maintaining all of their locations. So, like I said, we have multiple advisors and coaches. That's one thing. So we're kind of capping 8 to 10 a year as far as our growth currently, because we want to support it all and have that long term. I've been doing it 15 years, plan on doing it another 15. So we're not looking to just sell locations and then, have an exit, but keep rocking and rolling, slow, steady growth. Our locations that are currently open, that some of them are having like explosive growth. But as far as like putting more dots on the map for us, we want to make sure we have the right people. Really, we're looking for we have a 7-year franchise agreement. So really our internal goal, you want under the hood, is really 20 years. So a lot of franchises don't have someone for 20 years. That's our real internal goal. But we have to have the right people and super solid relationships that are
Hmm.
beneficial both ways for that to happen.
Ron, somebody wants to connect with you, learn more about, maybe just connect with you, find a little bit more about Tip Top K9, maybe the franchise and opportunity, or just even connect around entrepreneurship and business. How can they find you?
Yeah, they can go to our website, tiptopk9.com. I'm on LinkedIn, Ryan Wimpey. You can find me on there. But the website's the best. Fill out the form, click on the franchising tab, come out. If you think you're possibly interested, we do a discovery day where people come out and see what it's like running and operating a dog training business.
Awesome. What does working above the business mean to you, Ron?
Yeah, I'll tell you, above the business right now, when we had, so let me tell you what is not above the business for me. So I used to be, like a lot of people in the trenches, right?
Yeah.
Every day, all day, every day, 12-hour sales day, 12-hour training days, etc. Um, right now, above the business, I'm looking at marketing. We're looking at ads. We're looking at vision, helping our locations grow their people and doing work that impacts the direction and the brand, not just the individual dollar from one client. So in the business, I'm like client to client. On the business, I'm location to location. So right now, my work, half of my workday should consist of stuff that's going to impact all 19 locations
Hmm.
or add more. And if it doesn't, I'm not working on my job. I'm not working on top, right?
Love that. Love that. That's good stuff. Ron, I think one of the kind of several of the takeaways I had was just really a lot of good reminders to me that the same thing that makes a franchise successful, even though I may not have a franchise per se, and maybe not even want to franchise my current business or whatever the case may be. It's almost like a franchise mindset is a way to think of it more than anything for a business owner that's potentially out there. And I think the other thing is that stood out to me specifically is you made it really clear is that not only is there written documentation, but the use of pictures and images and I don't know if drawings or video to be
Drawings.
able to tap into the different ways that people consume information, right? So written and videos and pictures, et cetera. I think that really stood out to me where it just can't be a 35-page sales document that's just nothing but words. And the person is like, oh my gosh, are you kidding me? It's like reading, I don't know,
So we had
school
a
textbook or
35
something.
page, yeah, it was like 30 something page text document, and I'm spending 200 hours on it. And we literally took that and broke it into sections. It's 20 something sections. Took a very interactive picture and put like 6 or 7 words underneath each picture and then would read it, go over the picture, and then they can take this picture sales document that's very colorful, pretty. They can practice with that, even take that in, lay it on a table.
Yeah.
That impacted the training almost more than the document almost became for the person who's training the trainer.
Sure. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. It does. Ron, appreciate you coming on, my man.
I appreciate your time. Thanks, sir.
Shout out to our podcast sponsor, Club Capital. If you want to develop the skills, but also have access to the certain tools to be able to help you to be able to understand your financials better, to not only grow your top line, but increase your bottom line, book a no obligation demo. Go to club.capital. Often when we're making decisions about the different softwares that we're going to bring in for our team. In fact, I'm in the process of making a decision on a upgrade of a CRM right now. And one of the things that I think about is obviously the functionality. How is this going to be able to help us? What are the different elements that it has? But in addition to that, how easy is it to use. And in software, that's a oftentimes a hard balance between adding features, but at the same time making it easy to use. But Today App has been able to do that. If you go to todayappro.com, todayappro.com, they will be able to get you away from the different spreadsheets and the Google Sheets that you may use, and even be able to pull in some of your customized word tracks into one central location. It's going to sync with your corporate approved CRM, and they do that at an incredibly low cost. Go to todayappro.com, todayappro.com. As we were talking with Ryan on the podcast, he was mentioning about getting coaching for himself and how valuable that has been in his own journey. I've certainly expressed how important that has been in my own journey as well. But sometimes it's hard to find the right community to be in. But if you're an insurance agency owner and you want to work with somebody that's doing it at the highest level to get a peek behind the curtains of the things that they're doing, go to coachpconsulting.com, coachpconsulting.com. They're going to be able to help not only you, but the uniqueness about his program is that he's also going to be able to give coaching to your team. Your team members are going to get to connect with his team members, which is incredibly important. It's important as a business owner to be around other like minded business owners, as well to be with your team, to be around other people, even outside of your team. CoachPConsulting.com. I believe fundamentally business is a team sport. It's one of our maxims. It's a thing that we believe. And so if you believe that, one of the most important things that you can do is to be able to have a bench, have a constant flow of applicants, just like you need leads from your marketing team or from your marketing to hand over to sales. You also need a constant flow of people in the event that you are wanting to grow, or if you do have turnover in your organization, you're not caught red handed of like, oh no, what do we do now? We have to begin to make changes quickly and maybe end up skipping steps and make a poor decision in bringing someone on. Autopilot Recruiting can help you with that. Go to autopilotrecruiting.com, autopilotrecruiting.com. All right, everyone. Hope you enjoyed that episode with Ryan, learning about kind of from his angle, different franchising secrets of the things that they've been able to do. And hopefully, maybe even that mindset can help connect you in your business to help you document the things that you're doing so that you can build a business that runs and grows without you. Until next time, lead well.